Hello. Let's see. Yes, we are recording. So thank you so much for being here on time. And I would like to say that I am going to honor your time with these webinars that I do. Takes about anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. I know you have a choice about how you spend your time. And so I want to make sure that we use your time wisely. And I want to say thank you in advance for spending your time with me. So let's begin by sharing the screen here and the PowerPoint presentation. Let's see here. So we are shared. Let's begin our slide here from the beginning. So again, thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about engaging your board in resource development. And so I just wanted to let you know that this presentation is being recorded, and the recording and slides can be emailed to you upon request. And if you have any questions, please chat them. And then we will answer those questions in an informal Q&A sessions at the end of the presentation. So a little bit about me. My name is Sabrina Walker Hernandez. I studied political science and public administration. I obtained a nonprofit management certification from Harvard Business School. And for the last 25 years, I worked in the nonprofit industry in direct services, operation, and executive leadership. In 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer and I felt that I needed to retire. And the reason why I have that in there is really the reason why I started my company, because I know that it is very stressful being a CEO of a nonprofit organization. And the two cancers that I have was directly related to stress. And so the goal of my company is to make sure that I support any founders or CEOs or executive directors of nonprofit organizations so that they don't have to feel as much stress as I felt. Let's be real, the stress is not going to go away. But if I can help minimize that stress, that is my goal. So since then, I've been helping people take their nonprofits to the next level. And I wanted to be able to share that information with you. So what do? I do workshops, I do board retreats, I do webinars, I do coaching and consulting. So who would benefit from this webinar today? Who would benefit is nonprofit CEOs looking to engage their board in fundraising, nonprofit board chairs seeking to inspire their board to fundraise, and anyone looking to enhance their board's fundraising experience. So the goal for this webinar is to understand the role of the board in resource development, learn how to engage the board in each one of those roles, and know how staff can support the board in resource development. So that is the goal for the webinar today. So let's start by saying it isn't begging. So if you see the image here, it says, please, sir, I want some more. That's the first thing you have to let your board members know, that isn't begging. I had so many board members tell me that they feel like they are begging. Well, they're not begging. They're offering the donor an opportunity to invest in your organization's mission. And so you have to move them away from this mentality of begging to the mentality of cultural of philanthropy. So what exactly does that mean? So a cultural philanthropy means that you are asking them to invest. So stay away. So try to move away from the word donation or donate to my organization. Try to say invest in my organization. You're moving away from asking them from their spare change to asking them to provide abundantly to your organization. You are moving away from, you know, I'm a nonprofit, so give me money because I'm a nonprofit, to you're moving into, I'm a nonprofit, I solve this problem, here's your return on investment. And this is how, these are our outcomes. This is how we solve the problem that our community have. And so you really need to be clear about the fact that it isn't begging. I would suggest that you go look at my YouTube account, or you can go on my website. All my YouTube videos are there, www.supportingworldhope.com, and really look into the presentation around begging and cultural philanthropy, because I tell you, it has to be throughout the organization. Because if you finally get your board to where you want them to be, and they are inviting people on tours of your organization, and they come in for a tour of your organization, and their first encounter is with the janitor and it's a bad experience, right? That's what the donor is going to remember. Or the donor calls the organization and your reception answers the phone and it's a bad experience. That's what they're going to remember. So it doesn't matter how hard your board is working if everybody in your organization has not embraced a culture of philanthropy, you're going to be working against yourself. So you need to make sure that everyone from top to bottom understands the culture of philanthropy. So I would encourage you to take some time to look at that webinar and really familiarize yourself with it, because it does take a mindset shift. And I want you to make that mindset shift, not only for you, but for your board members, because you'll be able to inspire your board members to make that mind shift change. So we're going to take the pulse of the board, and let's start by saying that board members are hesitant to fundraise. That's just a fact, okay? They're hesitant to fundraise, again, because they feel like they're begging, and we just kind of went into that. So that is that is a part of your job, is to make sure that they feel comfortable with the fundraising process. So board members equate fundraising with the awful experience of asking for money. Okay, so let's talk about that one for a little while. So there's many ways for a board member to assist in fundraising. People always go to the ask, and it's not necessarily always about the ask. So a board member can be a door opener. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that that board member knows a lot of people. They can invite a lot of people to get to know your organization. They can introduce you to a lot of people that will support your organization. And so they open the door for that relationship. They lend their credibility towards building that relationship. So for example, if a board member introduces me to one of their contacts, then that allowed me to kind of jump some steps up, because they're lending their credibility, right? And so I don't have to start from the beginning. I'm starting from a place of trust simply by who introduced us. And so that's a part of fundraising. So opening the doors. The other part is asking for money. But let me tell you, out of a board of 17 people, I had tops 3 people who felt comfortable with asking for money. So you're not going to get a lot of people who feel comfortable with asking for money, but the 2 or 3 that you get, make sure that they are fully informed and they are ready, set, and go when it's time to go. And then the other part is stewardship. That means the thank yous. Once the gift is secured, having a board member call them, having a board member do a note, having a board member take them out for coffee to let them know how their gift was used. That is all a part of the fundraising process. So again, it's not just about asking for money. It's the door opening, it's the asking for money, and it's the stewardship. So make sure that you understand that process as well, and not get as frustrated with your board when they say, they don't want to ask for money. And I will share with you one of my top board members did not ask for money. She always said she didn't feel comfortable asking for money, but what she did do was open the doors. And she was my top fundraiser, because she opened the doors to bank presidents. She opened the doors to everybody that she knew, and they all gave significantly, and they all gave gifts. So don't get frustrated in that process. And so the other thing is, board members are not engaged in or passionate enough about the organization. And we're going to be talking about that as we go a little bit further into this, how we're going to engage them and how we're going to ignite their passion. And we need to utilize their skills and networks to make resource development rewarding. That's going back to being, how are you using your board? Are they door openers? Are they askers? Are they, stewardship? Are they thank yous? So you have to figure that out as a CEO, founder, or executive director of your organization. So the roles of the board members is to give generously, to be an advocate, and to participate in resource development. Now there's a little controversy, for lack of a better word, around that give generously. And this is what I know as a grant writer, and I know as a fundraiser within my organization, is that 100% of your board needs to give. They are family. So how can you go out and ask others to give if your family is not giving? They are family to your nonprofit. So 100% of your board members should be giving to your organization. One, because they cannot go out and ask for gifts if they are not giving. 2, foundations, that's one of the questions that they ask on the grant application. What percentage of your board gives? And they want to know that 100% of your board gives. Now, how much the board gives, that is up to you. Like I said, we had a give or get policy of $5,000. That means our board had to give $5,000 or get $5,000. And usually they did not give $5,000. They got $5,000, but they also had a personal gift of a minimum of $500. You and your board have to determine what is comfortable for you. But 100% of board members should be giving to your organization. And how are you going to ensure that they give to your organization? So as executive or a CEO or the founder, you're going to meet with your board members annually to talk about how they are performing. And so, or your board chair can do this. It just really depends. So it really, at the beginning of the year, you have them fill out annual commitment form. And that annual commitment form is going to say, this is how much I plan on giving personally. This is how much I plan on fundraising. These are the committees I plan on serving on. And it's going to detail that out. And you can find sample documents so you don't have to recreate these documents on my website at www.supportingworldhope.com. And it's in the free resource library. So basically, they have a commitment form that they fill out at the top of the year. And so you or the board chair can meet with them at appropriate time to say, okay, let's see where you're at with this. What my board did, and they made it fun, and the accountability process that we developed is we looked at this quarterly. And so each quarter we developed this chart, and if it was green, that means you were on track to meeting your $5,000 that quarter. If it was red, that means you were a little bit behind. And that's the process that they developed. And you really have to work with your board to develop a process, accountability process that works for them. But I will say this, that your board members they work full time. They are busy people. And so don't get offended if they are not meeting their goal, especially if you have not met with them or created a process for them to look at their goals, because they probably forgot, especially if you're doing it at the top of the year and you don't talk about it again until the end of the year. Do not set yourself up for that failure. Develop an accountability process with your board so that you're looking at this quite frequently. Some people look at it biannually. Like I said, we chose to look at it quarterly, on a quarterly basis. And red means you're not doing so well this quarter to reach that goal. Green meant you are on track, $5,000 divided up 4 ways, and this is how we got there. So I really want you to look at that accountability process and make sure that 100% of your board is given. And again, you let your board know that. And when applying for foundations, they ask what percentage of your board gives. And if 100% don't give, more than likely that foundation will not award a gift to you. So your board members also need to be an advocate. They need to share their personal story. They need to spend time in the nonprofit. So let's say that they're a board member, but they've never seen your program in action. So how are they going to advocate for your program if they've never seen it in action? How are they going to tell a personal story if they've never seen it in action? And we're going to be talking about how to incorporate mission moments in your board agenda later on, so to help them develop their personal stories. And also, they need to have an elevator speech. So what is an elevator speech? That's how you communicate what your nonprofit does and the amount of time it takes to travel in an elevator from one floor to the next. And so you, as the CEO, founder, or nonprofit, can help them develop their elevator speech. That can be a part of your board education process. And we're going to be talking about board education later on. But your whole goal is to make sure that they're an advocate for your organization. And then next they need to participate in the resource development process. So when we talk about the resource development process, what does that mean? We talk about identification of prospects, cultivation, solicitation, and stewardship. So identification of prospects. So we all have those board members that say, you know what, I don't know anybody. So I've developed these exercises. They're called the sphere of influence or the list generator. I'm going to talk about the list generator because that's the one that I prefer. But if you go onto my website in the free resource library, you have access to both of those. But I like the list generator because it really helps. It really leaves the thinking out, and whereas the sphere of influence, you have to think a little bit more. And so I try to make it as simplistic as I possibly can. So the list generator, it will say, you know, name 2 people that you go to church with, name 2 people that are in law enforcement, name 2 people that are in government that you know, name 2 people that you are involved in a civic club that you know. And that list goes on, and it's a 2-pager front and back. So you'll get about 25 names from that list. So what you do with that is you do it as the founder or CEO of your organization or executive director, but you also have your board members do it. So let's say if you have 5 board members. Now, I'm not great with math, okay? So 5 board members plus the CEO, that would be 6, 25 names each. Let's say about 125, and don't correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say you have about 125 prospects. So after you're doing the exercise, you have 125 prospects, and then the next step of that exercise is to really narrow that down to 5 people per board member, 5 people per executive founder, however you refer to yourself. So that means you're going to have 5 people, and how you're going to narrow it down to that 5 people is you're going to say, who of these 25 people have the ability to give? And who of these 25 people have the capability to give? They have the ability and the capability to give, and you think that they will give to the organization. So you're going to narrow it down to 5 people, and that's who you're going to be responsible for, those 5 people. And what are you going to be responsible for? You're going to be responsible for their cultivation. So cultivation is everything that happens from the moment you identify a person as a potential donor to your organization to the moment you solicit them and ask them for money. And so the whole goal is you have your 5 people. Now you're going to figure out how you're going to touch those 5 people 5 times within the year for that organization. So how are you going to touch those people? That could be, 1, you're going to set up a face-to-face meeting with them, take them out for coffee, let them know a little bit more about the organization. You're going to pick up the phone and call them, let them know a little bit about the organization. And I'm going to kind of stop here and say, if you have not picked up the phone to call your donors during this pandemic, now is a time to make that a cultivation step. Now it's a time to call them, see how they're doing, because they're experiencing the same things that we're experiencing. They're in quarantine, they're isolated. So check on your donors. Check on them. If they're not a donor yet, but they're a potential donor and you're cultivating them, you do the same thing. You check on them, you make sure that they're okay, whether it's a phone call or a text. Phone call is preferable because you're building trust with the phone call, okay? So then you can invite them on a tour to your organization. You can invite them to be a part of an event that you're hosting. You can invite them to be a part of a roundtable. So that's 5 things, 5 ways you have touched that potential donor in the year. And so in those 5 things, you're developing a relationship with that donor. So once you have developed that relationship with that donor, now it comes time for solicitation. And that's when you make the ask. And so usually who goes on the ask is the executive director or the CEO or the founder of the nonprofit, plus the board member. Preferably the board member who has a relationship with the potential donor. But again, if that board member who has a relationship is not an asker, then it's up to you to make the ask. But that board member is there to lend credibility to that relationship because they're the one who has that relationship with the donor. And then it goes on to stewardship. And stewardship is where you do the thank yous. And you have the board members send a note. You have the board members pick up the phone and say thank you. I was in a youth serving business. And so it was very easy for us to do stewardship because if someone came on a tour of our facility, what we would do, I had some canned videos of kids saying thank you for taking a tour of our organization. And as soon as they left the facility, within 5 minutes, I would send them that video. And so it depends on your clientele, how you can move forward with stewardship. But I encourage you to really think about how you can do that creatively. Okay, so there's a way to engage board members' heart, mind, and passion for fundraising. And that's what this is about. You have to engage their heart, their mind, and their passion for fundraising towards or for your organization. So as the founder, CEO, and executive director, your role is to focus your board, inspire your board, ready your board, and engage your board. So how are you going to do these things? How are you going to focus your board? So one of the ways that you can focus your board is mission moments. And so what is mission moment? Mission moment is you start off every board meeting with a mission moment. That means you have a client come in and share their story, because people remember stories and your board will remember stories. And when they're out advocating for your organization, they will share that story. And so again, I was in a youth service organization. So I would have a youth come in, introduce themselves, tell you their names, their age, what they liked about the organization, what they didn't like about the organization, and gave the board members time to ask them questions. Now, this did not take a lot of time on my agenda. It was like a 3 to 5 minute presentation. In actuality, you can find a sample hour-and-a-half agenda on my website at www.supportingworldhope.com in the free resource library. It's very important that you start your board agenda off with mission moments. Now, if you are in an organization where confidentiality is a concern for you, maybe in spousal abuse organizations or something like that, there's ways that you can still do the mission moment. You can do it by video. You can tell it from a different perspective. So for example, as an organization that services newborns that are being placed in different homes where newborns can't talk. So what they do is they have the teddy bear share the journey. And so that means there's no image of the child, and it's coming from the perspective of a teddy bear. And so you can think about things like that. You have to think of it a little bit out of the box to be able to share that. And every month, the teddy bear takes you on a journey and what that child is experiencing. The other way that you can do it is you got to focus on real outcomes and results. And so when I talk about outcomes, I'm not talking about outputs. Outputs is like we serviced 100 people. Well, that's telling me how many people you service. I'm more talking about outcomes. So of those 100 people, you can, if you do pre and post tests, you can say, 20% increase their awareness of this, or 30% increase their awareness of that. And so really what you're trying to show is your outcomes and your results and what your impact is. And I will end board meetings with the program report that shared those outcomes with the board members so that they could really focus on what my organization was doing. So you have to inspire your board. How do you do that? You have to make resource development fun. You got to take your board and resource development to the next level, and you have to have a plan. So I did share with you how my board developed their fun accountability process. They liked it. They had every quarter, the green meant they were on track, the red meant they were not on track, but they developed that. And I would encourage you to have your board be a part of that process, because they're going to know what motivates them. And so I would suggest that you have them be a part of that process. But the ultimate goal is you have to have a plan. They have to be inspiring, and it has to be fun. We had a board member that for those who did reach their goal, and remember we had a $5,000 give a get, he would take them out to dinner in a very, very fancy restaurant, and he would pay for it. And everybody wanted to go to that dinner because it's always nice to get something free, right? Even if you can't afford it, it's still nice to get something free. And so they really made it fun and engaging, and that's how we did it. So think about that. And then you got to ready your board. So what does ready your board mean? So you got to have proper tools and training. You have to have practice, and you have to educate them on the donor cycle. So let's talk about the proper tools and training. It amazes me how we get frustrated. And when I say we, I include myself in that, how we get frustrated with board members when we say they don't do what they're supposed to do. Well, let's think about this. Let's take a step and really think about this. Board members, again, are professionals in their community, in their work environment, and in their experience. They may not have necessarily served on a board before, or if they have served on a board before, it may have been very well different. There's different types of board. And so we bring them in on this board process, and we don't orientate them. So we haven't orientated them to our organization. We have not provided training to them. on how to fundraise, on any of this, but we get frustrated with them when they don't do what they're supposed to do. Or perhaps they don't know what they're supposed to do. And so I would say you got to provide them with the proper tools and training. And as a matter of fact, my hour-and-a-half agenda has board education as a key part of it. At least 15 to 20 minutes of every board member is dedicated to board education. And if push comes to shove, I have a host of webinars that you can use that as a part of your board training. Again, you can find those on my website at www.supportingworldhope.com. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And practice. What does that mean? So you want your board members to be comfortable with the ask. You got to practice it. You got to set up scenarios where they can practice. What if the donor says no? What if the donor asks this question? What if the donor asks that question? You need to practice. You need to set up little practice scenarios so that they feel comfortable that by the time they go in for those visits, they know how to respond. And then you have to educate them on the donor cycle. And that's what we talked about previously: identifying prospects, cultivating them, soliciting them, and stewarding them. So you got to educate them on that. And again, the agenda that I used and developed, it's an hour-and-a-half, and it talks specifically, it has board education in there, because we cannot take for granted that the board members come equipped with fundraising. So keep that in mind as well. And then to engage your board, you got to give your board members the appropriate role. So what does that mean? If you remember at the top, we talked about many ways that board members can assist in fundraising, whether that be a door opener, an asker, or a thanker. And so you need to know your board members and know which role is appropriate for them. Now, a lot of them would tell you, like I said, there was a board member who said, I'm not an asker, that's not what I do. Well, I could have walked away and said, well, she's not going to be good on the board. But no, I had to think, okay, can you be a door opener? Make introductions, or can you be a thanker? But you have to kind of assess and know your board members and know what role will fit them the best. And then you have to create a support structure. And when we say create a support structure, that means exactly what it says. Support them in that process. Support them in the process of resource development. Support them in the process of opening the door. Support them in the process of thanking. So how would you do that? So you had a donor give a big gift and you have a board member that's a thanker. Well, make sure he has the donor's cell phone number. Make sure he has the donor's contact information. Send an email to him and say, hey, this person just gave this amount, and if you could please make a call to them and thank them for their gift, and just let me know any pertinent information that came about as a result of that conversation. That would be good. And that's how you support them. And so that's what that is the how you engage your board in resource development. And so I hope the mission has been accomplished. You understand that your board role in resource development, your board is engaged in fundraising and resource development, and you understand how to support the board in that role. So now I'm going to go ahead to my next slide, which is going to be talking about some different ways that you can research and some tools and articles that you can look into. So I would ask you to Google 10 fundraising responsibilities for board members and familiarize yourself with that. That's going to be a great article that you can look at. And I'll also say some activities that you can do with your board of directors is the powerful elevator speech exercise for your board. And then you can talk about a board member individual development plan and circle of influence exercise, or sphere of influence, as I call it. Again, these activities can be found in the free resource library on my website at www.supportingworldhope.com. Okay, so this is my track record. I used this approach for over 15 years as the CEO of my nonprofit organization, and my board raised over $2.5 million each year, and they had a give and get policy of $5,000 each. And my organization was located along the Mexico-Texas border in the third poorest county in the United States. And so if you take these tools and this process that I'm giving you, it will work. I will say this. When I took over the organization as the CEO, we had a $750,000 budget, and we moved that to a $2.5 million budget. Now, it took 8 years. There is no magic bullet, but there is a process that you start. And once you start it, it will move you along that continuum. I promise you that. And that is the track record that I know has been established. And so here are some of my clients and what they said. You know, I've worked with the Capable Kids Foundation, helping them seek their executive director. But what I'm really proud of is my work that I did with the Palm Valley Animal Society. I helped them with their annual fundraising event, and we raised over $300,000. It was one of the largest events for that organization. And we used the process that I developed, and it really worked out for them. And I'm very proud of the work that I did for them. So now that we've covered engaging your board in resource development, I would like to further my discussion with you. So here's my call to action. First of all, I'd like to thank you for attending my webinar. But if you're interested in going deeper into this and would like to explore how this all relates to you, you can book a free consultation with me. And on that call, we'll discuss how to develop a board development plan. And why do I start off with a board development plan? Well, in actuality, everything should start off with recruitment. So if you have a good board development plan, you're going to identify recruitment, and you won't necessarily have to start from the beginning as far as your give policy, as far as your expectations and all that, because that's going to be discussed during the recruitment process. So that will save you a lot of steps as well. We're going to talk about the board matrix and how it's used to ensure diversity. We can talk about how we can apply the format we discussed throughout this webinar, and how we can work onwards together. And it's very easy to get your free consultation with me. All you have to do is go to my website again. It's www.supportingworldhope.com/home. Is right there on my home page. Click the button. It says schedule a call with Sabrina, and you'll be giving the different date options, and you can sign up for a free consultation with me. And so I really like those consultations, because I really feel like I can help you with whatever you're challenged with or whatever you're struggling with, because it's always better to have that outside perspective. So I really enjoy those calls, and I encourage you to do those calls. And I also like to share with you my program, 6 Weeks to Sustainability, how to sustain your nonprofit, even if you're brand new, burned out, or scared to ask for money. And so this course will help you in your fundraising journey. And so milestone 1 is engaging your board of directors. Milestone 2 is creating your case statement. Milestone 3 is how to tell your nonprofit story. Milestone 4 is develop a prospect list. Milestone 5 is how to connect with your prospects. And then milestone 6 is setting your fundraising goal. This 6-week course is going to help you secure major gifts without having a large staff, lots of time, and much board support. It's going to help you determine how to fundraise and get major gifts, even without experience planning and fundraising. How to raise money when the organization has no prior history of fundraising, and it's hard to know who to ask for support. How to develop a more systematic approach to deepening relationships with current donors, as well as cultivate prospective major donors. How to deepen the relationship with donors and secure their support. How to get super focused and organized with the fundraising roadmap. And plus, you're going to get free bonuses valued at over $4,000. So those bonuses are going to be, again, I have access to a stewardship calendar, help you develop a customized stewardship calendar for your organization, a story collection form. You're going to have lifetime access to a support group, which is valued at $600. 1 week of group fundraising coaching, which is valued at $590, and you will become a member of my inner circle, and it's going to be live monthly fundraising and board development coaching. That's valued at $3,000. Now, the regular cost of this online course is $1,500, but for you today is $750 with a money back guarantee within 30 days. Now, I know when I was a CEO of a nonprofit, let's just face it, I was cheap. And so I know $750 seems like a lot of money, but it's 6 weeks. So if you do 750 at 6 weeks, that's basically $125 a week. Now, $125 a week is going to give you access to a personal coach that's going to go live with you every single week, that you can ask your questions, because every organization thinks that they have unique issues, and you can ask those unique issues. We can delve into those unique issues, but you are going to get a personal coach with a lot of knowledge, basically for $125 a week. And you're going to walk away with some great tools that you're going to be able to carry with you throughout your nonprofit journey. So how do you sign up for that? You go to supportingworldhope.com/shop. And that's how you sign up for that. So I encourage you to do that. I'm only looking for 5 people to join. I want to keep it small and I want to keep it intimate, because I want to make sure that I am providing the best service that I can. So it's limited to 5. 5 is what we're limited to. So right now, I don't see any questions in the chat other than about the certification process. And what I will do is I will look into the certificate process. I can make a certificate, but I wanted to have some legitimacy behind that. So I will look into the certificate process for moving forward. Do I see any other questions? I don't see any other questions, but what I want to do is, again, say thank you and encourage you to follow me. These are my social media sites. But again, if you don't like going on the social media sites, you can go to my website at supportingworldhope.com, and it'll have access to all of the information that is being shared with you. Again, let me thank you for spending your lunch hour with me. You have a choice about where you spend your time. And so the fact that you chose to spend it with me, I am very appreciative of that. And thank you so much for all your comments in the chat. I'm glad this is going to be a great resource for you. It really makes me, it really gives me a happy feeling to know that I'm supporting the nonprofits out there and all the work that you do. So thank you so very much. And with that in mind, we are going to sign off for today. So thank you so very much. And it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure doing this training with you. And I just want to make sure that we move forward from here. So thank you so very much. And now I want to make sure that my video downloads. I'm sorry that I'm moving on. I want to make sure that my video downloads, and we're going to stop the share and we are going to pause the recording. So thank you so very